Welcome to the Wednesday edition of Before You Bet. I'm your host, John Metler. Joe Osborne is still on vacation. I think this guy takes more days off than Ben Simmons. Hopefully he's enjoying his trip on the West Coast there. We have some, Olympic basketball we're going to do at the back of the show. We have baseball, some baseball picks coming up with jingles, and we have college football. We do have, I'm a Tigers fan. I got the Tigers hat on. We have some trade deadline fast approaching here. The Tigers are kind of fully in the mix of that with Tariq Skubal. He's still on the team. Hopefully he survives one more start because I'm going to the Twins-Tigers game this weekend. But before we might talk a little trade deadline, let's bring in our guy to talk some baseball.
Just throwing Osborne right under the bus. Ben Simmons. I hope you didn't even write that down in the script. You just right off the top. This guy takes more days off than Ben Simmons.
I'm definitely sending that to him. The West Coast thing. I don't know if you ever saw it.
You better show him that so he doesn't just catch wind of it.
Yeah, we had this debate. I don't know if you were around for it, but maybe like months ago during the NBA season, he was talking about a Colorado Rockies game, and he was saying how it's on the West Coast. And we were like, I'm like, Joe, the Colorado is not on the West Coast. We went back and forth arguing it. So I don't know where he's vacationing. He's been off for a little bit. I know he's back next Monday before you bet. I do have a question for you, though. We're kind of kicking around the pre-show here. Tariq Skubal, I'm a Tigers fan. I personally feel like a couple months ago, I didn't think they should trade him at all. I've kind of flipped around to that just with you look at how their farm system's set up. They obviously don't have bats. It's kind of a move where you could flip that instantly with a big-time trade. If Tariq Skubal does get moved, is there a team that you think – like World Series immediately, I want to bet this team? The rumor kind of is the Orioles. That it seems like that's the pairing that has the team. They have the bats the Tigers want. What do you think about like if you went to the Orioles? How does that change your stance maybe on the Orioles or the World Series or anything like that?
Well, there's a few things, and I'll give producer Mick a couple seconds to hopefully bring up the Bet365 MLB AL Cy Young stuff and the outright stuff. I'll throw him right under the bus right at the top of the show. So first of all, we're talking about like it's Baltimore because they have the prospects, because right. Skubal's contract is quite friendly for teams. And John Paul Morosi was talking about the haul in which Detroit wanted was like something of the Juan Soto deal, which was absolutely bonkers. And only basically Baltimore has the prospects to pull that off, probably including someone like Jackson Holiday. But if you're holding on to Tariq Skubal, AL Cy Young stuff, you'll be absolutely terrified if he does go to the Dodgers because the Dodgers are fully committed. They spent $1.3 billion in the offseason. So what's another move from them? But there's a move. So you're not going to get much movement on the Dodgers already at plus 270. It might move a bit. Maybe you see plus 240, plus 230 if he does, because I mean, that jumps up to a frontline ace. That's a guy you can start twice in a series in the playoffs. That's important, right? Probably more effective than a bat. More effective than someone like Pete Alonso, who's coming across possibly at the deadline. But the Dodgers are getting Tyler Glasnow back. Clayton Kershaw is going to start again, so they might be a little wait-and-see approach, but they only have 10 days. But if the Orioles pull it off, that number's going to they'll leapfrog the Phillies and then probably jump up somewhere, I would assume, like plus 400. So if you're getting ahead of the odds, if you're information betting this, know where Baltimore is. And you could probably squeeze 200 points, but we're not going to see anything like from plus like 20 to 1 to like 11 to 1. We're not going to see NBA style movement in that spot. And just because of who he is in his contract and what they want, there are only basically two teams right now, and that's the Dodgers and the Orioles.
Okay, you brought it up, so I guess my next question to you is, if you're holding a Skubal Cy Young ticket, what's kind of your strategy there?
I mean, depends on what you bought in at, right? Depends on what you bought in. It depends on what your risk is. If you've got a single unit down on it, and like I don't know, maybe try to find something. We'll get to your nerfy there, B. Don't worry, we'll try to find a nerfy. What are you going to do, right? You can go on the other side and get Corbin Burns, who I believe is your hedge, but I think his hedge is like plus 180-ish. I probably wouldn't suggest that, but in that spot, I don't think there's much behind him. If producer Mick can bring up those 365 odds, I see him tinkering away down there. If he goes to futures and goes to AL, click the win outright button right there down. And regular season awards would be the next one. It's just so many futures still.
At the top.
I don't think it should be regular season awards. There it is right there. And then should be the fourth one down, second one down. Second one in the AL. AL Cy Young. Oh, maybe it's at the top. There's Cy Young. There he is. Minus 140. So there's Burns at plus 260. Lugo did go 9 innings in that last game, and he's kind of the sneaky one, but like he doesn't have like the strikeout numbers. He's not Tariq Skubal. Maybe that's your hedge, but I think you just kind of sit on it and hope he goes to Baltimore and that the Dodgers don't just buy him out in that sense where they can afford it. But it just looks like Baltimore only has the pieces in the prospect in the pipeline to pull off the trade. So if he goes there, I think he moves even shorter ahead of Corbin Burns. No, wouldn't that make sense if they both were on the same team? Wouldn't the favorite become a little shorter, maybe?
Yeah, I would think so too. Even when we're just looking at that board there, 3 of the top 6 are technically on the trade block. You're right. Garrett Crochet's kind of been
Garrett Crochet.
There. Jack
but the
Flaherty
thing with Garrett Crochet is like he's on an innings thing too, right? Like you're going to trade for him, but you can't really push him that much. It's the same thing with Skeens. If you're betting Skeens in the NL side, he's probably going to get shut down too. So it's tough. I don't know. I'd hold on to it and just hope that he goes to Baltimore in that sense. I mean, I'm not the smartest hedge guy in the world, nor am I a giant futures guy, but it looks like Baltimore's probably the lead.
Yeah, it's a unique spot for sure because it's just it does feel like it probably feels most likely the Tigers keep him. And then if you combine that, like if you're just talking about probability, it does feel like the next probably most probable outcome is the Orioles because it just feels like the Tigers aren't going to trade him unless they're getting exactly what they want. And that feels like it's the Orioles. It doesn't feel like anyone else has to match that. So I think if you're holding on to Skubal, he's probably staying in the American League would be my guess, right? Type thing.
Yeah.
So then you're kind of, you don't have too many options for what, like basically it may be a cash out, but you're not going to get great value. And then also does the book even offer a cash out? So
how long was he before?
I think he opened the season around 20-1.
Oh, okay. So I mean, like if you're holding like 12-1 and you got $25 on it, $50 on it, just ride it out.
Oh yeah, for sure. All right, you have 2 MLB player props for us today.
What's your best Nerfy today? Give me your best your Nerfy there, John.
My best Nerfy?
I just looked at Detroit. I looked at Detroit, Cleveland. Flaherty looked good on his first game back. Your buddy still has the Flaherty strikeout lead.
He does, yeah.
Right?
It's not good.
He took some time off. That one's minus 150, but that's obviously the easy one. A sneaky one might be Baltimore, Miami, just because McDermott making a start. Miami's garbage. Indoor game. Outside of that, Mitchell Parker and Waldron isn't bad.
You're a big Mitchell Parker fan, are you?
I hate Mitchell Parker. He's just too efficient. I don't know. I'm not a Nerfy guy. I don't know where the edge lies in the Nerfy. There's just such a variance in it, and I don't know the difference between a minus 120 and a minus 150 in a Nerfy because you're probably paying more tax on the no-run first inning than you are for a yes, I would assume.
Yeah. All right, do you want to fire up? You got 2 props for us. You got the first one, Chase McDermott. What do you like for him?
Chase McDermott. How are you spelling Chase? Spelling it with a Y, of course, because that's what young people do now. Chase McDermott, over 4.5 strikeouts, plus 140. What is FanDuel doing at plus 140? Bet365 is plus 115. This number's hung around all day. The trader at FanDuel is just not paying attention right now. This is way off market. He's making his MLB debut, so there's obviously a little risk, but he gets Miami indoors. Miami bottom 10 offense and above average strikeout rate. Projected to have 5 strikeouts basically on 87 pitches. So his leash is long. And this is an elite strikeout guy at AAA, 193 Ks over 141 innings over the last 2 seasons at 3A. That should at least project, hopefully today, to a K per inning. Man should get 5 innings versus this terrible Miami offense. That is a big number at plus 140 to get. I'd play the plus 115 as well. I mean, he has control issues, but if you're really digging through the granular and really digging through the aggregates, he gets a plus framer and Adley Rutschman, and then he gets a pitcher-friendly home plate umpire. So there's some things to mask the stink of his control issues, but he's got high K upside. And books don't know how to price new people, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm sure you see it in basketball. Here comes someone off an injury. They have to wait for liquidity within the market to establish the efficiency in that, because they just throw it out there and let us kind of make the number.
Yeah, you see it a lot with like an injury goes down and like a new guy jumps in the starting lineup and his minutes are going to go in from, like 10 to 35. And maybe he's not someone he could be a rookie or a second year guy who doesn't typically get that. So there's a lot of opportunity with that.
But that's kind of the scam. That's kind of the scam you're looking for every day when you're looking at pitcher props, right? Like Kevin Gausman making his 6th regular start versus an average team. Like those are bankable numbers that you can kind of project. You can't be like, oh, he's on a heater, he's going over. No, like you need to be like, this guy's making his debut. This guy's coming off the IL. This guy's facing an offense on a getaway day that's dropping in 2 crappy bats. So you got to find, I don't know, the scam or the edge or something that's not priced in. And with pitchers, 30 pitchers going basically a day, there's always something to find.
Yeah, though actually, you got my mind racing here. The one guy from Summer League, Tyler Kolek, I feel like he's going to be that opportunity we were kind of talking about where he's a high this guy, and there's going to be a time, I just know it, in the NBA regular season, he's going to jump in the starting lineup for like 1 or 2 games because of injuries. They won't know how to price it, and it's going to be there's going to be an assist prop there. So
and that's where the alt market comes in. Then you're hammering alts like Andrew Brennan yesterday on that on the Tampa Bay starter, right? His 3 strikeouts was plus 500, bro. And there was like a 50% chance that he was going to go 2 innings as opposed to 1 inning. So with high variance comes that higher probability of looking into those alt markets. And that's what it was. The guy struck out the side in the first and hit that plus 500 in the first inning.
Yeah, that was awesome. He just came back too from he was off for a little bit there. Okay, you got a second prop for us. Robbie Ray. What do you like for Robbie Ray?
Yeah, so first off, producer Mick, before you bring up the actual print, let's bring up old Robbie Ray pants. He's going to be so excited to throw these up. There it is. Oh, there it is. There's Robbie Ray pants. Well, Robbie Ray pants are coming back. Robbie Ray pants was dealing with Tommy John surgery. The guy hasn't played. And you're like, well, why are you betting Robbie Ray over strikeouts today? Because the book was heavily assuming that he wasn't going to go deep. Well, guess what? He threw 78 pitches in his last rehab start. The rule of thumb, about plus 15 pitches from start to start when you're ramping up. He had 45 strikeouts over 29 plus innings pitched in his tune-ups in AAA. And this is a guy who's been a dominant strikeout guy. Yes, the Dodgers are good. Yes, the Dodgers are good versus left-handed pitching. But we saw even yesterday, Jordan Hicks, 7 strikeouts and had 11 outs total versus that side. I believe Shohei had 3 Ks. Andy Pages had 3 Ks. I mean, Kevin Biggio's down there. There's a lot of strikeout potential in that bottom third of that LA order. So like Ray to go there. If he can go 5 innings, then it's that same thing kind of with McDermott. Get me 5 innings, get your 1 strikeout an inning, and it's an easy thing just to baseline across.
Did you, a couple of years ago, did you jump in on the Robbie Ray Cy Young stuff? Did you catch?
Yeah, a couple years ago. Yeah, a couple years ago. I think I hit that. I'm not a bad future better. I'm not one to take great advice in future betting sometimes, but I believe what the Toronto year, obviously.
Yeah. He ran it down. Wasn't he like 30-1 when September started? Something crazy.
Yeah, I don't think I was at 30-1, but I do believe I got a little piece of that. And how things changed. That was the same year that Vladdy was second in AL MVP voting behind Shohei.
Yeah.
Now they shit.
All right, Josh, you want to let the people know what you got going on, where they can follow you the rest of the week?
I'm here. I'm in this room. I'm looking at numbers. My Discord, Twitter, YouTube. Find me. Talk to me about anything. Come join the Discord. Come talk. Let's talk sports betting. Up 5:30 in the morning today, just looking at lines. I'm taking a page out of old John Metler's book, waking up and getting those fresh early prop lines. If you don't bet early, it's so funny. Like if you change your lifestyle and start to bet early, it's insane. If you get to watch, I mean, we're pretty lucky, John, what we do. Get to watch the market from the beginning of the day to tip off or first pitch and just see how much the market moves and how much the books are really off on a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I feel like getting up at 5:30, I think the only thing I could get up at 5 a.m. for is to look at betting lines. I'm not quite sure there's much other things in the world that could get me up at 5 a.m., but I wake up so excited to like see all the new numbers and what today's kind of going to bring, right? So that's always cool.
Always love seeing that one guy that you don't usually see pop on the tools or the projections. You're like, oh, why is this guy popping today?
Yeah.
And then you dig into it, you're like, oh, let's go. Like I love that reverse engineering of using tools and numbers and then digging into like the actual, I don't know, non-subjective stuff that's just right there in your face, like the reporting and being like, wow, okay, here's an injury. Awesome. Let's go. Love it.
Yeah, that's always the best. You wake up and you're like, why is Jalen Green at the top of this today? And then all of a sudden you start looking into it and you're like, oh yeah, there's something here. Let's go type thing. But Josh, as always, thanks for coming on the show.
See you Friday, bud. We'll switch roles Friday.
Yeah, we'll switch roles Friday. We'll see you on Friday. Hopefully we get Chase McDermott and Robbie Ray to cash some tickets for us. Thanks for coming on.
So square. A couple of overplays for the boys. All right, buddy. We'll talk soon. See you.
All right, before we move into college football here, just a reminder to like, subscribe. I feel like that's the only two things I'm supposed to say at the top of the show instead of making fun of Joe Osborne, but I did not. Pretty much the only thing on the script I'm supposed to let you know, and I just decided to take a shot at Joe Osborne instead, but I'm sure he'll appreciate that when he gets back. So make sure to like, subscribe, and let's move into college football. Let's bring in Doug Farmer here, and the rumor is there's a bet we were looking at, and it is now on the board.
It is.
Doug, you want to break this one down for us?
We are going pretty much the antithesis to Josh here. We're just going to discuss futures, and we are going to discuss what some consider a long shot future out of the gates here. I last week was sitting right here. I think it was Friday, saying Appalachian State win the Sun Belt. I think we got it at plus 310. Today, I am sitting here saying Appalachian State make the college football playoff 16-1. Right there is the headline, 16-1. We don't have to say anything more, but we will say more. It's a 3-conference race for that spot. Now, remember, this year's playoff, 5 conference winners make the playoff, the top 5 ranked conference winners. We all know the Big 4, and then it will be either the AAC, the Mountain West, or the Sun Belt. The MAC and Conference USA don't have a chance. We will touch on Conference USA still here. Appalachian State has 2 chances to get a good non-conference win, either at Clemson or against clear Conference USA winner Liberty. Beating Liberty there, even if they go only beat Liberty and they lose Clemson, beating Liberty should knock Liberty out of the conversation, and that's better than any win Memphis or Boise State is going to put together. That is why I like this bet. Appalachian State has that early chance to make its resume better than the other teams likely to do this. Then you remember that 16-1, I said 3-1 last week, plus 310 to win the Sun Belt. This is effectively a parlay of beat Liberty, win the Sun Belt. Yes, there are other items involved, but that's what this comes down to for me. And I keep looking at these odds. While Josh there was convincing me to bet 2 overs on some strikeouts, I was checking Boise State and Memphis make the playoff odds. Some square books have them both at 4-1. A sharper book has Memphis at plus 750. Appalachian State should not be twice or 4 times as unlikely to make the playoff as those. I sincerely believe this bet cashes, but if nothing else, it's massive value. You've got a team returning 9 starting defensive players, return most of their offensive skill players. They can get one of those 2 big wins in September, and then they've really got only 1 conference game where I'm like, I don't know if they pull that one out. They go 11-2 and win the Sun Belt, they're going to be higher ranked than Boise State or Memphis.
I'm just going to let you know, I'm going to clip this once we leave and I'm going to post because I literally just pulled out my phone and I placed the bet at Bet Rivers because I was waiting. Last show, we were talking about App State. I was like, you got to let me know when it comes on the board because I'm going to place it. So I just placed it. We'll see the timestamp on the bet too, 12:18 p.m.
I appreciate the faith. I like the 16-1. I've seen it this morning. I was shopping around. I think I saw 11-1 at Caesars, 12-1 out in Vegas. 16-1 is obviously more of like it really pushes this over the edge. Even if I was hesitant about this becoming reality, 11-1, maybe I'm skittish. At 16-1, it's an easy must bet. Boise State has Oregon, Washington State, Oregon State. They're not going to win all 3 of those games. At Wyoming versus San Diego State with new head coach Sean Lewis. Boise State's schedule is tougher than people are recognizing, yet they're neg 110 favorites to win the Mountain West. Memphis, this actually bothers me that they're 2-1 to win the American, but they're 4-1 to make the playoff. That doesn't track. They should be so much higher at 4-1 if they're 2-1 to win the American because they do have to outpace Boise State and Appalachian State. Appalachian State's 16-1 is foolish odds, and I'm glad you got it.
Yeah, I will point out the amount was picked by BetRivers, not me. So when you see the amount I got, I know I figured that might happen to me when I try to place this bet. So I think FanDuel has 14-1 too. Would you still play 14-1?
Yes.
Yeah. So
I would pay anything north of 12-1. 12-1,
Okay.
it becomes honest, and that's at circa. I will end up playing 12-1 if that's all I have an option for. But that's 16-1. It should not be 4 times or even 2 times as unlikely as Boise State and Memphis. Those are the three. Those are the three you're going to hear for the next month. Those are the three that are the clear front runners in all of their conferences. None of those three should be that far mispriced.
All right. I got the 16-1 about Rivers, but I'm probably going to have to jump to FanDuel 14-1 just to get a little more.
Beef it up a little bit. Yeah, I can understand that.
So, you have one more futures bet. Last week on Friday, you told us you kept looking at the Big 12. You had thoughts. You weren't ready to hit the button yet, but you see a team on the rise here. Who do you like?
It took me pretty much until I had to commit to a play today. And I like that you said on the rise. I don't think you did that intentionally. There's a little pun there because I am backing Cam Rising and Utah to win the Big 12. I got it at plus 360 out at Circa Sports. Books have both Utah and Kansas State between 3-1 and 3-6 plus 360. So consider them co-front runners. The market is overvaluing Kansas State's offense. It is rebuilding. It is the number 7 offensive line in the Big 12, according to Athlon. It returns 2 offensive line starters. It lost offensive coordinator Colin Klein. Kansas State's offense is going to take a big step back. I don't care how good, and they are very good, the running back quarterback combo is. The offense is going to take a step back. The other team I really considered over and over and over again is Oklahoma State. And yeah, Utah has to go to Oklahoma State. That is a concern. But the fact of the matter is Utah has the best line play in the conference, the most experienced quarterback in Cam Rising, who I think last week I loosely discussed as a Heisman dark horse. Other than that game at Oklahoma State, Utah's schedule comes down to November 23rd at home at Rice-Eccles, maybe the hardest place to play in college football, against Iowa State. Whereas Oklahoma State has a 3-game stretch of Utah at Kansas State versus West Virginia. Oklahoma State's not going to come out of that unscathed. Kansas State has 4 very concerning conference games. You look at those schedule imbalances, I can get the most experienced quarterback with the best line play and an easier schedule than these other 2 contenders. There shouldn't be – I don't know why it took me so long to come to that decision. I think it's partly because I like the idea of Oklahoma State being a fun team this year. All Mike Gundy off-field idiocy aside, I mean, he went on Big 12 media days and effectively said, hey, I drink and drive all the time. Like he said that. That's not the exact quote. The guy with a microphone is an idiot, but his teams are fun, and that team could be a lot of fun. I suspect that bias is what took me so long to commit to this, but I'm getting the best line player, the most experienced quarterback in an easier schedule at plus 360. That's the conversation doesn't have to go further than that.
Just when you're talking about Utah, it came to just random question. Is Utah one of the better college football programs that isn't seen as like a really, really good college football program?
Utah
like pretty consistently like a good team, you know?
Utah and TCU in tandem rose up from the Mountain West to Big 12, Pac-12, and now both in the Big 12. TCU was more consistent originally. Utah has become more consistent now. Last 5 years or so, they have really found an identity in the line play. It's entirely in the line play. Kyle Whittingham might be the most old school coach left in college football. He builds his offense and defense out of the lines, but he's not stuck in the mud of 3 yards in a cloud of dust. They have explosive players. Last year, the team relatively fell apart by injury. Cam Rising and tight end Kuthi both lost for the season. That knocked them back. Utah, the home field advantage is underrated, and Kyle Whittingham has created a program identity. So, yeah, you're right. They've become this under-discussed. I heard a phrase this week, friends, if you want to be smarter about college football, listen to Split Zone Duo. It's a brilliant, smart college football podcast. And they used a phrase this week describing Clemson. They're no longer a 4-team playoff team. They are a 12-team playoff team. Utah is not a 4-team playoff team. They are a 12-team playoff team. Utah is going to get more notice nowadays because of the 12-team playoff, which will be good for them, good for college football. More people. And Utah went to back-to-back. I think it was only 2, not 3. Back-to-back Rose Bowls. That is the type of program they've become. They are a top 12 program, and that hasn't been noticed enough in college football.
And this is their first year in the Big 12. For
Nope.
the other Big 12 teams,
Nope.
it's not their first year?
Oh, excuse me. My mistake. You are correct. Look at you, John.
So this is their first year in the Big 12. That's not an easy road trip for all those Big 12 teams going up to Utah, right? Like they have quite they have a pretty big home field advantage, right?
Rice Eccles is underappreciated. Blame the Pac-12 stewardship for the world not realizing Rice Eccles might be the toughest place to play in college football. The Pac-12 network, Pac-12 timing, however you want to blame it, nobody really realized that, going to Utah, USC knows very well. Oregon knows very well. You don't want to go play at Utah. And Iowa State, late November, is going to have to go to Utah. And as good as Matt Campbell has that program, that's going to be a bad night for them. Rice Eccles is at altitude. It's very loud. And quite frankly, there's not a whole lot else for them to go do.
Last thing for you, when I was betting App State 16-1, I saw in the BetRivers app right below them, Colorado 18-1 to make the playoffs. Doesn't that just kind of make you laugh because it kind of shows that App State shouldn't be 16-1, right?
It shows that Colorado should be about 150-1. But I will point out, John, I specifically did not mention that before Iowa State, Utah has to go to Colorado. So effectively, Utah will get an off week before its second toughest Big 12 game because it's going to have to go to Colorado. And I say that and I pull up the schedule and I'm just reminded that Utah's Big 12 schedule is very feasible. You always want your road games. Yeah, they've got to go to UCF to end the season. That'll be tough. But by then, we're going to know what's at stake.
Right.
And Kyle Whittingham will have that program dialed in if that's at stake. Whereas Gus Malzahn could go either way. You get to go to Arizona State, you get to go to Houston, you get to go to Colorado. Those are the teams you want to travel to face. Why do you have to keep bringing up Colorado? Why? I know, I understand. We're going to spend the entire October and November discussing Bronny James. He's going to play 2.5 minutes a game. We're still going to have to wonder if we should bet his props. I realize this is the same thing, but you're not going to sit there. Well, Joe, I really think Bronny over under half an assist tonight has value. You're not going to think that.
I'm trying to get a reel for the social team out of you. That's what's happening over here. I just slowly keep bringing up Colorado every show.
I think last week I went on the rant.
Last
week was my rant of Colorado shouldn't be, and they're entertaining, and I understand that. Colorado is going to be 5-7 at best, most likely 4-8. And at some point here, we're going to have to realize that Deion Sanders does not understand offensive or defensive line play. The entire Big 12 concept here is offensive and defensive line play.
Do you want to let the people know what you got going on this week, where they can follow you, where they can get more college football picks information? I mean, college football is right around the corner. We're
it's time. It's time. There's a reason I'm spending my mornings talking about Appalachian State. You find me at Twitter at @D_Farmer. What's coming for me right now is I have to think about a baseball game for about an hour, but then I'm spending the next 2 days building my first playoff bracket. If you haven't paid attention today, I can tell you right now that Appalachian State and Utah will both be in my projected playoff bracket, as well as last week's Ohio State. If you remember, I picked them to win the national championship. What did I have that up? 450-1, 457-1. Those three I know are already in my 12. I have to find 9 more and seed them, and that's going to cause me more stress than it should. But like you said, it's college football season. It's first practice. Florida State took to the field today. A month from today in Dublin, Florida State, Georgia Tech. We're there. It's time.
All the videos and TikToks I've seen of the video game College Football 25, and you see people playing at Penn State and the whiteouts and all the atmosphere. I'm like, I need these actual games back on my TV for
Saturday, 1 month from today. In fact, 1 month from this moment, we will be half an hour into the college football season. We will have Florida State up 7 to 10 points on Georgia Tech late in the first quarter.
All right, Doug, thanks for coming on. Thanks for we got the Appalachian State bet in Utah to win the Big 12 as well. Thanks for your picks. Thanks for coming on the show. We will see you very soon for more college football.
Thanks, John.
All right, last but not least, we have Olympic basketball. It starts Saturday, and I've placed I think 5 futures here. So I'm gonna have Mick bring us to DraftKings here. We're just gonna keep it simple. We're gonna stay at the one sportsbook. I think it's best if I just talk about it while also kind of showing you the odds here. So we'll go first. Mick, if you can click on assist leader. So this is to lead the tournament in total assists. So it's not per game either. So then that's kind of like the big one too. And I did clarify with a couple sports books that it was total. It does say total on these markets. Some of them didn't, but the FIBA World Cup last year was also total. So just make sure if you're betting into these, you do recognize that maybe it's total versus per game. I haven't really seen many per games. It might be more not with the legal sports books per game. The legal ones seem to be total. So how this works is they're in 3 groups. The top 2 teams, so 6 teams, they'll advance, and then 2 wild cards. So essentially 8 of the 12 teams will advance to the quarterfinals. So that means 4 teams are only going to play 3 games. And then if you get to the quarterfinals, that means another only those 4 of those 8 teams, they're only going to play 4 games. And then if you win your quarterfinal and get to the semis, you're going to have the semis and the gold medal game, or the semis and the bronze medal game. So that means 4 teams are going to play 6 games. So when you're talking about like a total number of like leading this market, that's a big factor. Like if you're playing 6 games versus 3, or even 6 versus 4, there's only 4 teams that are going to have guys who play 6 games. So what caught my attention with this market, if you're looking at the top here, DraftKings has Nick Kalathis as the favorite. Great assist guy, plays for Greece, point guard, phenomenal vision. Even if you look at the FIBA qualifying tournaments, I think he averaged a little over 10 assists per game. The one thing I will say about the FIBA qualifying tournaments is so he plays for Greece. He plays with Giannis and Antetokounmpo. That obviously helps convert assists, right? like you're a point guard, you get in the lane, you give it to Giannis, he dunks it, he finishes around the rim. He also plays with a lot of shooters. In those qualifying tournaments, though, he was playing against I think Egypt was one of his opponents. Even Slovenia, when he played Luka Doncic, they don't have much rim protection. So those assists are converting a lot higher than what you would expect from the Olympics here. Like if you're playing, Canada's maybe not the best example, but they do have NBA players on the inside. USA rim protection. You have France with Wembanyama, Gobert. Those are way different matchups. So I wouldn't kind of expect those assist numbers from Kalathis when you look at the qualifying tournament to this. So this market grabbed my attention because he's the favorite, and also he's in the group of death with Greece is in the group of death with Canada, Spain. That's not. I don't know if he might only play 3 games. And even if he does get to the quarterfinals, they just got blasted by Serbia in an exhibition game. I don't think Greece is the strongest team. So are they going to make it to the semifinals? I don't think he's playing 6 games. So the name that caught my attention here, the American guys obviously have the best chance of playing 6 games. They're going to play 6 games. They're going to get to the semifinals, USA. The problem is that they just play so many games where everyone plays 20 minutes. So when you're talking about an overall leader for the entire tournament, their usage isn't high enough to one player. So the guy I looked at was Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, because I think that's the best combination of Canada should make it. They have the roster. It doesn't mean they will, but they have one of the best, they're second to win gold. It's the best combination in my mind of getting to the semifinals, playing 6 games, a player who is fully in control of his team's offense. Jamal Murray is there, but Jamal Murray's been injured. He's having contract negotiations with the Denver Nuggets. He missed the one exhibition game. He only played 7 minutes. Next one, I'm not really sure what Jamal Murray's role looks like. And even if Jamal Murray is in the lineup and he's playing starter minutes, to me, this is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's team. Everything runs through him. And once you get to those, semifinal finals, that usage to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander just increases even more and more. So I think he won't be the highest assist per game, but I think he's the best combination of the potential to play 6 games and then leading it from there. I grabbed this at 14-1 at the score. It's sitting at 8-1 here at DraftKings. It's currently 12-1 at the score. That's the price that grabbed my attention. So I grabbed this 14-1. I would go grab the 12-1. I think that's ESPN if you're in the States. He's kind of sitting 7-1 most elsewhere. So the 12-1 was a big attention grabber to me. We'll go to team rebound leader, Mick. And then go down to Canada. So 2 Canadian bets here. So I grabbed RJ Barrett plus 400. So he's plus, people were tweeting at me. I saw BetMGM open this. I bet plus 400 at DraftKings. That's the number I have. I saw BetMGM open this market this morning. They had him plus 600. That's obviously a much better price. You should go grab that. People were tweeting at me that BetMGM pulled it after the tweet. So I'm not sure if it's still up there at BetMGM. If you can grab that plus 600 at BetMGM, I'm assuming it's probably going to get reposted and be adjusted. He's plus 195 at Betano. So that kind of gives you an idea of why I like this plus 400 as well. you look at this Canada roster, that so like same thing. They got Kelly Olynyk. I think there's a lot of opportunity in these player markets because I think they're running off of kind of like the FIBA World Cup and like these NBA, what they do with their NBA roles. But as you watch like these exhibition games or kind of like new roster construction, I think there's opportunity. They got Kelly Olynyk up here near the top. Kelly Olynyk's coming off the bench. Dwight Powell starting. When you look at the FIBA World Cup team for Canada from last year, Kelly Olynyk and Dwight Powell were the only two bigs. Now you throw in Trey Lyles, you throw in Kem Birch. I don't think Jordi Fernandez is married to one guy playing the most center minutes. So like if he has a game where he plays Kem Birch more than Olynyk, or like when you're talking about like the total rebounds for the entire tournament for your team, you know, even just one game of like a different rotation at center that could really mess things up. To me, RJ Barrett is like the consistent of he's going to play the 4. He's kind of like your bigger guard. So I think that also helps his minutes where you're looking like the backcourt. Obviously, SGA is going to play his minutes, but like the Jamal Murray, Dylan Brooks, Lou Dort, they're all kind of interchangeable too. I think Barrett has to stay on the floor for a rebounding and like size kind of thing. SGA, same thing. He's sitting here at the favorite plus 110. That's really just like a minutes thing. And he's a pretty good rebounding guard. I think in the NBA, he averaged about 5 rebounds per game. RJ Barrett's about 6. He will play a little bit more minutes than RJ Barrett. This just comes down to me that, you know, if SGA and Barrett were even money, I would bet SGA. But when you're talking about SGA sitting at, you know, plus 110 and Barrett plus 400, it's the plus 400. I'm going with Barrett because I think it's going to be pretty close between the two of them. So I'll take the plus 400. Mick, if you can go up to most points or team scoring leader, just on the left there, the team rebound leader. And then go down to Germany. You can tell I was excited for this segment. I've been going through these props. I'm not done going through all these. There's so many futures for the Olympics. So I bet Franz Wagner. I grabbed this plus 150. It's now plus 120 here at DraftKings. I did bet it at DraftKings. I think there's plus 135 BetMGM, and I think plus 130 Bet365. I think Franz should be the favorite. Dennis Schroeder was their leading scorer at the FIBA World Cup. He's the flag bearer. He's kind of the guy who has all the attention. The thing was, if you go back last year to the FIBA World Cup, Franz Wagner missed kind of like the group play with an injury. And that's kind of where Dennis Schroeder separated himself and like led the team in points. But there was like a debate going into like the final where like Schroeder won MVP of the FIBA World Cup. There was like a debate. It probably should be Franz Wagner from like an efficiency standpoint, but Schroeder had higher totals. And then even if you look at like their exhibition schedule this past month here, Schroeder had a really big scoring game, but it was the one Franz Wagner set out because Franz Wagner was negotiating his contract with the Orlando Magic. So once again, I think the attention for the points is on Schroeder. It's going to be close. Both of them are going to probably lead them in field goal attempts or shots. It's going to be close, but I think the attention's more on Schroeder just because he has led them in scoring recently. But there's been things happening with Franz Wagner where he didn't play. He didn't play because of the contract negotiation, didn't play because of the injury. They also had to like kind of work him back in minutes wise during the FIBA World Cup. So that kept his minutes down. If you go look at the games where they played together, Franz Wagner is the leading scorer for Germany. So I think Franz Wagner should be the favorite. And I also, this is 1 year removed from last year. Franz Wagner is a much better player 1 year later. He's a young guy. Schroeder's 1 year older. I just think Franz Wagner is the guy for Germany. So plus 135, I'd still bet that. I think he should be the favorite. I don't think Schroeder should be the favorite in this market. And then last, if you can go up to USA here. So this one moved quite a bit. I'm not entirely sure I would still place this. I grabbed LeBron James plus 1,000 to be the scoring leader for USA. He's now 5-1. The thing so this is not the total tournament. It's just for USA. So it makes it a lot easier because you're going to see a bunch of games for the USA where they kind of all play like 20, 25 minutes. But as you get deeper into the tournament, the USA guys, I think there's only 2 players right now who Steve Kerr, you can like guarantee, like if we're looking at a tight semifinal game or tight gold medal game where their minutes and usage gets elevated. I think that's LeBron James and Stephen Curry. Other than that, I think Anthony Davis and Embiid are like, he could go either way. We're not really sure about Kevin Durant. He hasn't played with injury. Again, Anthony Edwards, Devin Booker, which way will he go? I think when the games get tight and they're looking for someone for elevated minutes usage, I think it's Curry James. So when James was sitting at plus 1,000 and Curry was plus 300, to me, same thing. I'm taking LeBron James. This has moved quite a bit. I think plus 500 might actually still be your best price. I think FanDuel's down to like plus 320 for LeBron James to be the leading scorer. the other one too is if you can go to the team assist leader, Mick. And same thing for USA. So I grabbed LeBron James plus 450. This is now plus 180. So this is moved quite a bit too. So Tyrese Halliburton, the one with this market was Tyrese Halliburton was the favorite. He's plus 400. Tyrese Halliburton played 7 minutes in that exhibition game. Then he didn't play at all in the last exhibition game. I honestly think he might not even see the floor that much in the Olympics. Obviously, he'll get on the floor. Tyrese Halliburton should definitely not be the favorite. I will say, I grabbed James plus 450 here. The one that kind of pops, I think he's Joel Embiid plus 1400. I think he's plus 1800 at another spot. If you are looking for like kind of a long shot, because when they play these initial like group play games, you're gonna see like 20-25 minutes, and like no one's gonna jump out and have like 10 assists like per game for this. Just not how this team works. So you're looking at like kind of guys that are probably like 3-4 assists. And then my thought is like once you get into the semifinals, finals, that's where LeBron James separates himself from a points and assists standpoint. Joel Embiid can kind of like hang because he's a guy who other teams are gonna have to double team. They don't really have someone who can guard him. So like if he's just kind of getting 4 or 5 assists in those first couple of games, he's gonna be right there. So it's kind of an interesting one. I just don't know with the thing that scares me that is Anthony Davis. That Anthony Davis is really pressing him for minutes. So those are kind of just all the futures I placed. You can take with that what you want. I'm gonna keep going through them here. I haven't gone through a couple teams. Those are the ones I've placed so far. They're moving pretty fast. So make sure you put on those tweet notifications and follow and like and subscribe and all those things, because they did jump. They're pretty fast to pull them too off the market once we kind of release them. So LeBron James stuff has moved a lot. It's I didn't really anticipate it to move that much, but obviously Halliburton was definitely not the favorite. He should not have been the favorite in the assist market. And then the points market, LeBron James did lead them in points in exhibitions. I think he had 71, and I think Steph Curry and Anthony Edwards were behind him like 65, 64. So he was the leader through the 5 exhibition games. He was the guy they turned to in the close games. They had a couple close games there with Germany. And also South Sudan. They had a really close game. They leaned on LeBron in both those games. So that's kind of what you're hoping for. Those stats will stay tight through group play, but I think it's once you get to the medal round where I think he'll separate himself. So those are the 5 futures I placed. Great to have Mick back here producing. We will be back on Friday. Jingles will be hosting. I'll be on the show. We'll also have Roe for UFC picks. Thanks for tuning in. Good luck with your bets. Make sure to like, subscribe, and we'll see everyone on Friday.